Hi there, and welcome to a new season of the Hockey Inside Out Show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette, and I will be the host this season, joined each week by two former Canadiens teammates who have won Stanley Cup rings from 1986. You know who these two guys are, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. It was a very interesting offseason for the Canadiens, and we'll have a lot to talk about on this season-opening episode of the Hockey Inside Out Show. Well, the biggest offseason news with the Canadiens was acquiring Patrik Laine from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Lots of excitement about that until, of course, he went down with a knee injury. But good news, I guess, he'll only be sidelined for 2 to 3 months. He won't require surgery. But Chris, how devastating is this loss to the Canadiens, and how does it impact whatever chances they might have had of making the playoffs?
Well, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs no matter what Patrik Laine did here. Everything was still a question mark with this player coming in here. He certainly was going to get the opportunity to get back to the player I think everybody thought or expected him to be. Now, the injury, certainly there is a lot of positivity there when you saw that injury. All I could think is Kirby Dach. He's out for the season. He's done. It'll be nice to get him back in 3 months and see what he can do here. But listen, I don't, regardless of what he did, if he scored 50 goals, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I still don't think they'll make the playoffs. And with him out now, I don't know. Could they have been a bit better team this year? Maybe another 5 wins, 6 wins? That'd put them up at, 88 points? Close to maybe 19th in the league, something like that. That's a big jump. So when you think of it in terms of games, only 5 more games they had to win, and they're a lot closer to that playoff spot. I hope that's what they can get to this year. But with Laine out now, certainly it's a big question mark.
And so many of those losses last season were 1-goal losses too. And Laine is a guy who could make a difference with that. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I really feel, sorry for the kid. Here's a guy that struggled the last 3.5 years to try and stay healthy, and he comes in pumped up, mentally, I think was ready for the challenge to play in Montreal, and bang, down he goes, and, not your basic week to 10 day type of injury. And anytime you lose a player like that, you make the difference, between wins and losses, it does hurt. And, he's going to be missed, but they've been through this drill before where they're missing guys like Dach the previous year. So they're going to have to find a way for other guys to step up. They're going to have to, buy into the program that, hey, he's not going to be here for a while. So let's take advantage, one of those guys that's going to fill that spot, and see if they can't, survive the grind, so to speak. But I feel bad for them, and it's unfortunate, and it just seems they're snake bit every time they try and get going, and they get knocked down with some severe injuries. But as far as the playoff picture goes, it's a long shot, and obviously when you take out key guys out of your lineup, we see what that happens. I don't care if it's Montreal Canadiens or who it is. Key pieces have to stay healthy, and unfortunately, it's not starting the best way.
Gotta say, Rick, I love that old mustache look in that photo behind you back from the playing days.
Thanks. You notice there's a few more hairs on the top of the head, too.
I can relate to that, my friend. It's interesting, Knuckles, as you mentioned, the Kirby Dach hit, and that looked like nothing last year, really. It didn't look that serious. And Laine, that looked like, it looked like he was done for the season. Yeah. I was talking with David Savard after Tuesday night's game. He said the players were really surprised when they found that it was only going to be 2 to 3 months. Originally, it looked like it was going to be a lot more than that. I wonder, for Laine, though, he went through mental health issues last season in the NHLPA program. How much of a mental blow is this to him being out, even though it's only 2 to 3 months now? But Knuckles, you've spent time injured, you too, Rick. What's it like mentally for a player when you find out you're going to be out for that long?
Yeah, not a lot of fun. He's going to spend a lot of time with the training staff every day. And, it's tough walking around the room when you're injured and you don't feel part of the team and all that. But listen, this guy's been away from the rink for quite a bit the last couple of years, so he might be used to it somewhat. But listen, he's going to get good care. He's going to be around the team. They seem to embrace this guy, and we'll see. When you talk about, the Dach injury last year, it didn't look like much. Reinbacher the other night going down, that didn't look like much either. But all it takes is that little twist one way or the wrong way. You catch a rut, you fall awkwardly, and that's what it looked like. He fell a little awkward, but it didn't look like much. Guys fall all the time, and now you see he has the worst injury of the two. When you look at time frame coming back.
Yeah, it's again Reinbacher. I mean, it's like you said, Knox. It looked like a basic hit, and bang, out he goes for a long period of time. And there's a young kid that was hoping to make some impact, on the roster, and here we go again. So it's tough to watch, and it's really really unfortunate for the team, but they've got to find a way to pick up the slack and get through this, because they're used to it.
The thing I wondered with Laine also mentally, like, he's with a new team, right? A new team, new city. Rick, when you came to Montreal from Washington, how big of an adjustment is that, getting used to a new city, new team, and then factor in the fact he's going to be out of the lineup too?
Yeah, that was easy for Greeny. He met me right away.
That made my transition really, really easy. Talk about a few nights that we were supposed to be home and we weren't home. But anyways, I think people have to understand, when you get an injury, it's really tough mentally, from the standpoint, first of all, not just to mention the injury itself and the rehab, but the conditioning factor that comes into play when you're out of the loop. You've been training to get yourself in shape and get yourself ready to play, and then boom, you get knocked back and you're out for an extended period, and you lose that game shape and everything that goes with it. And it's really challenging for anybody, and probably even more difficult for Laine, coming in now that the expectations were there that he was going to make the big difference in so many ways with the hockey club. And next thing you know, he's on the back burner, and it's going to be interesting to see how he handles himself. Not going to be easy, but he's dealt with things, I think, before, and now he has to find a way to get himself back healthy. And then it's going to be a challenge for him to get his A game back sooner than later.
So, Knuckles, what would be your best advice to Patrik Laine right now, heading into what he's facing?
Wow, yeah, I don't know. Just like try and get healthy, heal, stay off your leg, do what they tell you, and try and keep that positive focus, keep your upper body in shape somewhat, try and work out. I remember back in the day, before they had all these different machines, I remember Ken Linsman was out of the lineup for a while, and they said he was riding the bike with his hands. He was pedaling with his arms, right? Do something, stay busy, keep your mind active. Try and stay positive as much as you can. That would be my advice. That's the only thing you can do. There's not a hell of a lot else you can do. And keep an eye on your teammates and try and be part of the group. So when you come back, it's not like they're meeting a new guy again. You're around all the time. Try and get involved and be a good teammate. And yeah, that's it.
And Linsman had to was using that exercise to strengthen his shoulders so that he could spear guys better. It wasn't any conditioning that would really help
at
in
all.
His overall game. He just, because I know it very well, he speared me in the face, and I said, "You little rat."
That's exactly what he was, right? The little rat.
He was good at it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, now that Laine's out 2 to 3 months, and hopefully that prognosis is right, and hopefully it is only 2 months and not 3. Knuckles, who do you see replacing him on that second line with Kirby, Dach, and Alex Newhook?
Probably Josh Anderson. We know he had a difficult time last year scoring and all that. But you know what? Put the pressure on him. Get him out there. Do you need more from him? I like him as a player, man. He's got to exert himself. He's got to impose himself on the other team and be a leader on this team in the way he plays. And certainly, that's the guy I will go with. And I try and work with him and stay on top of him and push him to get more out of him. It seemed like there were a lot of lapses last year. And listen, I know he was snake bit a little bit, but man, you can't feel sorry for yourself. You got to keep getting back at it. And yeah, that'd be the guy I put in there for sure.
Well, I know Marty's in his corner, right? Marty St. Louis did everything last season to get him going. And this season in the preseason, he's actually been playing him on the PK. And I asked him after one of the games, is that a case of trying to get him more involved? And he said, like that good, happy, healthy Josh Anderson is good for that team. So that might be a way he uses him this season to get him more ice time and get him more involved. But Rick, who would you put in that spot?
Well, let me just say it would be nice to get Anderson, back to be able to contribute in more than what he has. But St. Louis has mentioned a kid named Kapanen as a kid that's handled himself very well, and he's good. He's got good size, and he has. He seems to have pretty good character and desire to compete. And they have a little bit of a luxury, if you will, of having some young kids with decent size and good skill set that they can experiment with some of these kids and see if they can't do the job. So why not? Like they've done previously, just throw some guy in there, see what he's able to do. Heinemann's played well too, and these are two young kids that have shown fairly well, and there's very good upside, I think, and it doesn't cost anything for you to experiment with these guys and give them a chance like they done in previous years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the competition for jobs on defense, but there's depth on forward now. I mean, that's probably the most impressive thing, I think, with this rebuild is just how they've brought in depth. I mentioned Kapanen. Rob Ramage, the director of player development, before the start of training camp, said, this kid didn't come here just to get a T-shirt. And he's shown that during the training camp. He has to go back to Europe and play there if he doesn't make the Canadiens. And I think the injury to Laine opens a spot. He's really impressed me. Calm, cool, collected on the ice, off the ice. I can see Joshua Roy, though, in that spot maybe. When he played with Team Canada at the World Juniors, Connor Bedard said he was one of the smartest hockey players he's ever played with, and we've seen that during the preseason. But it's nice that Marty St. Louis has some options, because in previous years there wouldn't have been. But Josh Anderson, that's interesting, Knuckles, because they got to get him going this season, and maybe that could be what gets him going. There's a lot. There's quite a bit still to be excited about this team going into the season. Knuckles, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I guess looking at Lane Hutson and seeing how he adjusts to the NHL level and the NHL game, he certainly has a quickness, a speed, and all that. I want to see how this team does defensively. And yeah, I know they want to score goals and all this, and you got to score goals and you got to take risk and you got to press. But boy, sometimes in their own end of the rink, they've struggled. And I'd like to see him get better there. But I'd say Hutson for sure. Listen, that kid Dach, I like him. He seems like a player that one day will be one of them third, fourth line players that you really need when it comes playoff time. This kid Barre Boulet, I like to see what he does, coming in here. Seemed like he got some speed, but yeah. And of course, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield. I love to see Slav continue on his progression like he has, and we'll see what Caulfield does now this year. I love to see if he's learned enough this year in the league to really start to put some big numbers up when we talk about goal scoring.
It's interesting when you mentioned Dach there, Knuckles, because every time I see him, I think of you, because you kept saying last season they need more men. Yeah. He's a man. He's a big,
he is
physical type of guy. And then Lane Hutson's a little different, Rick. He plays the game a little bit differently than you did. What excites you about him?
Well, just his vision and his smarts. I mean, thank goodness he has that at 160 pounds. Save himself, like I used to tell Peter Sabota, Pete, just don't put yourself in those areas because you're going to get hurt. But Hutson is he's really exciting to watch. Obviously, he sees the ice so well. He finds openings, and he's not afraid to obviously jump in there and do what he does best, and that's be creative. And you see him involved almost every time in the offensive type play, and again, tremendous upside with him. It's going to be a challenge for him, I think, obviously on the defensive side of things. But if he's smart enough, the rules over the course of the regular season versus the playoffs may allow some guys a little more leeway when it comes down to how they play. And at least he has the intelligence and the know-how on what he needs to do and how he can contribute. And what we've seen as of late is pretty impressive for a young kid that's, really just getting a full taste of what the NHL is all about.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. I mean, how many times did you have to straighten out Sabota's nose on the bench, Rick?
Well, he just, and you got to love Peter because he wasn't afraid, and part of the pun, he stuck his nose in everything.
Yeah, he did.
And it looked like it. But good character, determination, and desire. And that's one thing that the Canadiens seem to be striving with, is trying to put as many guys that have their heart in the right place, and the rest will follow suit. So I think that, bringing in or having these kind of guys, it's just a matter of time that they're going to get better. And they've handled a lot of their young kids really well lately. So hopefully they'll do the same thing with him.
Would Hutson have been able to play back in the hockey you guys played?
Hard to say. Listen, no one would have been able to catch him. No, listen. It's I sometimes I look at it's all relative, but I think he could have with being insulated. I mean, when Peter came in here, he was a stick figure.
I remember that. Yeah.
He was so teeny, right?
6'2" and
but he had the jam. Yeah, he had jam, Peter, and he was able to survive a lot of that, and he's stuck. Certainly had protection, but there were times he had to stick up for himself, and he did. He didn't run from it. I think this kid, certainly he's going to be exciting to watch. I can't wait, but I'm sure he could have played. It just depends. You grow up in that era, and he's that type of skater, and he's that size. There are a few small guys in the league back then. Not a lot, but I'm sure he could have played.
What would you have done if Kenny Linsman had speared him, Knuckles?
Well, I don't know if there's much I could have done except for attack the bench.
But Stu, the rules back then were obviously quite different, because as a defenseman protecting the front of the net, the smaller guys were not around very much in front of the net. They were moved. And, now you can't touch anybody without getting interference or, some kind of penalty. So the rules from before would have been, I think, more difficult for a really small defenseman, just for the sheer fact that they could not physically, or they could have physically moved guys, but they weren't built for that. And now with the new era of play and rules, these guys have a better chance of survival, both on defense and offense.
When you watch Hutson, Rick, do you ever wonder what it would have been like for you to play one game with that sort of that skill set that he has?
Yeah, I wish I had something like that when I started in Washington. I might have been able to develop a little bit quicker than what I did. But no, this is God-given talent that a kid, it's instinct. These type of individuals are born with this knack of being able to know what to do and when to do it. He's going to have growing pains like anybody else back there. There's times where everybody's going to be concerned about his reaction and how he handles himself, which is normal. but he has all the tools to be a really good player.
You used to be the Stefan Robert. I used to be the Canadiens defense coach. How excited would you be now if you were in that role to see this kid and get to work with him?
Well, again, it's a case of you try and put those kids in the right situation to help them, progress in the right way. You don't want to throw them to the wolves and have them, get beat up with their confidence. So I'm sure he's quite happy to know that the kid's going to be able to handle himself and usually make good decisions, which is really critical when you think about defensemen and their ability to find and choose the right plays at the right time and keep the game in front of them and be responsible, and all those little details of the game, which takes time. And if you do have the intelligence like a kid like that, you can make up for a lot of deficiencies.
Who would you put as his partner? Would it be David Savard, or would you pick someone else?
Well, I think you've got to have somebody stay home, because I know and we know that Laine Hutson, he's going on every opportunity. So Savard would be a guy that probably would fill that void of saying, "Okay, go ahead, kid, go crazy on the offense. I'll work with you and cover for you back on the blue line."
So, Knuckles, would you have been able to fill Laine's spot on that line with Dach and Newhook? That would have been fun, I would think.
Yeah, just to be able to protect them, and go to the net and cause shit. It would be great. It'd be a lot of fun. I like that Kirby, Dach. I really do. I like him. I like, and I'm excited to see him play a full season here. I just pray he stays healthy.
So Canadiens fans are excited going into the season, even with Laine being out. But, what would be a successful season for the Canadiens this year, Knuckles, in your opinion?
5-6 more wins. That's 12 points in the standings. It would get them up from, what were they, 28th last year, something like that. Get them up into around 20 or 19 in the middle of the, closer to the middle of the pack there. And then hopefully the following year you see that big jump and get them into the playoffs. But, I think overall defensively, you look at their goal differential from last season, they were like, I think it was 51 or something like that. They were minus 53. They were 28 in goals for, and they were 5 in goals against. So they were the 5th worst team goals against. I mean, you got to cut that back. I don't care. I know the offense. Come playoff time, defense wins hockey games. Special teams and defense win hockey games. And, they got to make improvements in that area, in their own end of the rink.
And I believe, the wins and losses are directly connected to their special teams. Their power play gets a little bit better. They get a goal or 2 goals more on the power play can make the difference, and vice versa on the defensive side. You shore up that area of your game, you're going to have better success. But as we've seen to date, they're struggling in those 2 areas, and it's a real bone of contention for me that they better get that thing straightened out, or they're going to continue to struggle and lose more than what they should win.
Yeah, well, they gave up the 3rd most shots in the league last season, and it's going to be, with more young defensemen, Rick, it's probably going to be hard for them to improve on that. The power play, I know in the preseason it's not the number 1 power play unit, but they're 0 for 25 on the power play in the preseason. All 4 Ottawa goals the other night were on their power play, so the special teams is something they really need to work on. 76 points last season. I'm figuring if they can get to 85 points this season, which is going to be more difficult without Laine, I think that would be a good season. The management's slogan at the golf tournament was to be in the mix, and I think that's a good goal to set, to just be in the mix. I think they're at least 1 more year away from making the playoffs, but it'll be interesting. I mean, I think 85 points would be a pretty decent season.
Yeah, I like to get above 500, right?
Yeah, that's a realistic goal for this team, I think, in the 3rd full season of a rebuild, right? You got to remember that.
And I think really they need to understand the importance of when to be on the defensive side of things and not be just going, I'm ready to rip on the offense. And, time and time again, I remember seeing them last year, high risk plays, guys getting caught out of position, thinking offense, and it comes back and bites them because they're on the wrong side of the play. So they've got to understand, okay, play by the score, being a little more intelligent on your selection of when you want to jump on the offensive side, and make sure that you're on the defensive side when the situation presents itself, that they have to play defense first.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much Marty cracks down on that this season, as far as he sort of let them just play so far, right? And how he cracks down defensively. They're going to have to do that eventually if they're going to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, what was it, 17 games? They let in 5 goals or more?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Anyway, well, that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with a new show next week, the three of us. In the meantime, please make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. Go to MontrealGazette.com/newsletter to sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. And of course, go to HockeyInsideOut.com every day, where you'll get all the latest Canadiens news. See you next week.